Coming up on the February 9th edition of Sports Extra, the Carolina community has lost a legend. Former UNC head coach Dean Smith passed away Saturday at the age of 83.
We take a look back at the life and legacy of one of the most beloved individuals in the history of North Carolina.
We pay tribute to the man who defined what it means to be a Tar Heel and embodied the Carolina way. From our Carolina family to yours,
Sports Extra starts right now.
From the University of North Carolina School of Journalism and Mass Communication, covering the full range of Tar Heel athletics, this is Sports Extra.
UNC, Chapel Hill, and the country mourn the loss today of an incredible person. Welcome to Sports Extra. I'm Andrew Stern.
And I'm Alana Albrecht. Dean Edward Smith touched the lives of countless individuals in his 83 years. And today on Sports Extra, we'll be looking back on his many accomplishments, not mourning the death, but celebrating the life of the greatest Tar Heel. We start with reporter Molly Oak, who's live in our satellite studio. Molly, the home of Carolina basketball was the center of the memorial yesterday.
When you see the outpouring of love and affection for Dean Smith from across the basketball spectrum, you just get a small sense of how much he meant to not only his former players, but current students, future Tar Heels, and even opposing coaches. The loss of this man's life is a huge one, impacting not only the campus, but the entire basketball nation.
His impact is everywhere. And even when you hang out with the former players that come back in the summertime, they always tell stories about him, and you can just tell how much he meant to this place.
Chapel Hill, North Carolina, home to Carolina basketball and home to Coach Dean Smith. Reminders of Coach Smith are scattered across town, and many of us will never forget his impact.
And absolutely just represent everything about what Carolina means to this community, and really understood what it meant to be a Tar Heel and a true gentleman, and the country and the school fell in love with him for that.
The Dean E. Smith Center, better known as the Dean Dome. 879 wins, 2 national championships, 1 legacy, all in Coach Smith's name.
Dean Smith is the reason I love Carolina.
The Four Corners offense, point to the passer, just some of the things Coach Smith brought to the game.
I was fortunate enough to play for the greatest coach to ever coach basketball, Coach Smith.
In 2013, when President Obama honored Coach Smith with the Presidential Medal of Freedom, he explained Coach Smith was more than just a well-thought-out playbook.
But his successes go far beyond X's and O's.
This man was so much more than a coach. Standing outside the Smith Center now, people have been coming by all day, leaving flowers, a signed basketball, and one family even left a handwritten note, proving that Dean Smith truly was a priceless gem. And everyone seems to agree.
And that's why there's so many people that have such a reverence for him, because it was never about Coach Smith. It was always about someone else. And
Legend. I don't use that word very often, because I don't think you can really know someone's a legend until they leave an incredible impact and you realize it years later. But I think he really created a new type of basketball here and a new community style here that will never, ever be replicated and will never be forgotten.
No, you guys made a big deal of the social issues that he was pushing, but to us and to me, he was just being Coach Smith. He was just being the good, honest guy that wanted everyone to be treated fairly. And, you know, not only on the basketball court, it just happened to carry over in life as well. And
I can't imagine anyone being a better influence than Coach Smith was.
He means a lot to him, and if he means a lot to him, that means he means a lot to us too. I know.
But he was a much greater man than me, and his whole thing was to do the best you can do, the absolute best that you can do. Don't leave any stone unturned. Do the absolute best you can do, and then live with it.
But as 18, 19, 20-year-olds, we couldn't really put it all together. But now at 43, you start to understand why he did what he did. And what's amazing is that you remember pieces that he would teach you, the thoughts for the day from practice, that sure, they had something to do with basketball at that time, but it has to do with today, and it has to do with tomorrow. And that's the kind of forward thinker that he was, and he integrated that into everything that we did.
till I die, a lot of the things that I do will be from him. That's a pretty good legacy. It really is.
It's been an emotional time for Tar Heels everywhere. Alana?
Molly Oak live in our satellite studio. Thanks, Molly, and thanks to Carolina New Media for the archival footage.
Tradition, a word synonymous with Carolina basketball. Today, we celebrate the life of the man largely responsible for building it. Let's take a look at some of Dean Smith's many accomplishments during his 36 years coaching the Tar Heels. When he retired, Smith had the most wins in NCAA history, 879, all coming during his Tar Heel tenure. That included rarefied tournament success with 11 Final Fours and 2 national championships in 1982 and 1993. Smith didn't seek the spotlight, but his resume reads like someone who deserved it. He's a 4-time National Coach of the Year, a 9-time ACC Coach of the Year, led a ridiculous run of 23 straight NCAA tournament appearances, and an inductee in 3 Basketball Halls of Fame. He was a model college basketball coach, proven by his 96.6% graduation rate. As amazing as he was on the court, it's what he accomplished off it that defined his life. Dean Smith also received awards such as the 1997 Sports Illustrated Sportsman of the Year. At the 1998 ESPYs, Smith was honored with the Arthur Ashe Courage Award, and most recently, President Obama awarded Dean Smith the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
A main reason for all of the recognition beyond his basketball accomplishments was Smith's push towards social change. During a turbulent time of segregation and discrimination in North Carolina and the South, Dean Smith recruited the first ever African-American scholarship basketball player for UNC, Charlie Scott. Scott would go on to be a 2-time All-American and lead Carolina to back-to-back Final Four appearances in 1968 and 1969. Scott and Smith paved the way for equality on the court at Carolina. Smith touched the lives of so many people during his time.
The heartfelt reactions poured in from all across the basketball community. Carolina great Jerry Stackhouse tweeted out this picture with his former coach. The best ever, RIP, the coach's coach.
Former Wake Forest point guard and current LA Clippers star Chris Paul posted this on Instagram, June 30th, 1995. Childhood hero, Carolina camp, legend, RIP. Wow, what an amazing picture.
And finally, a coaching legend in his own right, 13-time NBA champion Phil Jackson said, Dean Smith, an educator and great coach, will not be forgotten. He taught players more than just b-ball skills. RIP.
The number of people who offered kind words for the Coach Smith's family just goes on and on.
Duke coach Mike Krzyzewski had some very kind words. He said, I am incredibly saddened to hear of the passing of Coach Dean Smith. We have lost a man who cannot be replaced. He was one of a kind, and the sport of basketball lost one of its true pillars.
UNC Chancellor Carol Folt said he was a trusted mentor whose care for his players went beyond the basketball court and continued after they left Carolina. He will be remembered as a great American and true Tar Heel.
President Barack Obama released a statement as well, saying, Coach Smith showed us something that I've seen again and again on the court. Basketball can tell us a whole lot more about who you are than a jump shot alone ever could. At the hallowed arena that bears his name, students and fans gathered to remember and celebrate the life of Dean Smith. Flowers, cards, and all sorts of memorabilia. Students, fans, and many of the Carolina community gathered at the Dean Dome last night to pay their respects to the man who made UNC basketball into the revered program it is today. Tar Heels honored Smith by bringing candles for a vigil, singing the alma mater, and making sure to point the passer.
Coach Smith lived a life worth remembering.
So let's take a look back at his top 5 moments.
At number 5, we take you back to 2009 when UNC surprised Dean Smith by honoring him at the 100th anniversary celebration. Dozens of former players embraced him in an emotional scene at center court.
Number 4, the Tar Heels trailed by more than 20 points with less than 10 minutes to play against FSU in 1993. After a 3-pointer made it a 17-point game, Coach Smith called timeout and drew up the comeback, sealed by this George Lynch steal and slam. The Tar Heels beat the Seminoles 82-77.
At number 3, Walter Davis sunk a 30-footer to cap off an 8-point comeback in 17 seconds against Duke. UNC won in overtime 96-92.
Number 2, Dean Smith reached college basketball's pinnacle in both 1982 and 1993, winning 2 national titles.
And number 1 by a long shot, President Barack Obama honored Smith with the Presidential Medal of Freedom for his civil rights work, including integrating the ACC by signing Charlie Scott. Smith's wife, Linnea, accepted on his behalf.
We'll be right back. How appropriate on a day when we're honoring a man whose name is synonymous with excellence that a Carolina team should bring home a national championship. The honor belongs to the women's tennis team, which beat Georgia 4-1 at the ITA National Indoor Championship in Charlottesville, Virginia this afternoon. The Heels won the doubles point and the first 2 singles matches, but it took a stirring comeback from Caroline Price at number 3 singles to seal the deal in a 3-set thriller. It's the Heels' second national indoor title in the past 3 years. The men's basketball team traveled to Chestnut Hill on Saturday for a road conference matchup with Boston College. The Heels got off to a slow start, but Bryce Johnson picked up the slack with this nice putback. Isaiah Hicks was the story of the game, though, scoring a career-high 21 points on an efficient 7 of 10 shooting night in just his second start of the season. Watch him point the passer right there. This putback gave UNC a 7-point lead, and Carolina held on for a 79-68 victory, breaking a 2-game losing streak.
The women's basketball team also played on the road this weekend. The Heels went to Blacksburg to face Virginia Tech. The Tar Heels posted a balanced scoring effort with 5 players in double figures. Number 11 Brittany Roundtree scored 15 points to lead the team. UNC had 14 steals, leading to easy buckets like this one from number 2 Latifah Coleman. Coleman was one of the 5 players in double figures. She had 10 points. The Heels pulled away in the second half to win 74-52.
It might be the offseason, but Carolina football isn't taking too much time off, with new defensive coordinator Gene Chizik making some major moves. Our Tate Frazier joins us live in the studio. Tate, what's going on with the team right now?
Well, Andrew, let me just tell you, a lot of things are going on. We obviously know that UNC ended up finishing 117th in total defense and 116th in scoring defense. And when you struggle that severely, guess what? Changes are made. We've had 3 Carolina coaches come out, starting with Vic Koenig in early December. He left the program and is now the defensive coordinator at Troy University. The next guy to go in early January, Ron West, the linebackers coach for UNC, was let go. And now Dan Dish, the latest guy to be let go. After signing day, he was told on Thursday morning that he would no longer be with the team anymore. Gene Chizik, the defensive coordinator now for the Tar Heels, expects to keep Keith Gilmore, defensive line coach who has done a lot of good things for North Carolina so far, so he'll stay on staff. And another hire that he had, John Papuchis, who was the defensive coordinator at Nebraska the past 3 seasons, actually was the youngest in the country. And now we're talking about replacements, and I'm talking about Gene Chizik and not Gene Hackman. The first guy, Charlie Harbison, who was the former co-defensive coordinator at Auburn and Clemson. He spent 13 years in the SEC West. The next guy, Charlton Warren. He's a defensive backs coach at Nebraska right now and was with Papuchis for quite a while. Supposedly 2 more interviews coming up, but we'll see what happens with that, Andrew. Back to you.
The Heels are really shaking things up. Football analyst Tate Frazier live in the studio. Thanks, Tate.
Carolina's number 2 ranked women's lacrosse team was off to Gainesville this weekend to play the University of Florida. In their second game of the season, the Heels defeated the number 3 ranked Gators 17-11. Senior midfielder Brittany Copa led the team with 4 goals and an assist, trailed by sophomore Alex Moore, had 4 goals for the second game in a row. Kaylee Waters had an amazing 11 saves in goal, only 2 her career high of 13. The Heels will be back in action at home on Friday against High Point University. The men's lacrosse team started the season with a bang, defeating the Furman Paladins 19-4 on Saturday. The 3 starting attackmen each had hat tricks, with goals like this one. Here we go from Joey Sankman. Furman, in its second year as a varsity team, kept up in the first quarter, but struggled to score against UNC's defense. The Heels really put it on Furman by scoring 5 unanswered goals to start the second half. The men's lacrosse team did beat Furman for the second year in a row, but How does the team compare to last year's? Chandler Carpenter reports.
Winning by 15, the UNC men's lacrosse team had a solid start to the season on Saturday at Fetzer Field. The team lost some key players in the midfield from last season, such as short sticks Ryan Creighton and Greg McBride. However, with a scrimmage last weekend against the reigning Division II champ Limestone, the Heels are trying to maintain their high level of play in a new season with a different team.
No, I think it's really sticking to the basics. It's so early in the season, and there's a lot of new things that we're seeing from different teams that we'll come across that we were not able to scout. So it's really sticking to what we do and do it well.
Attackman Joey Sankey played well Saturday, racking up 6 points in the offensively heavy game against Furman. Sankey was an All-American last year and really likes how the team is coming together already.
We have a new offensive coordinator, and I think everyone's gelling really well. But we have an optimistic group, some young guys on D-Midi, guys like Tate Jazokos and other D-Midi stepping up as young guys. But it's a really tight group, a lot of seniors on this team, which I think is a great thing.
Attackman Jimmy Bitter has been playing with Joey Sankey for 4 years, giving the Carolina Attack some great chemistry. Bitter is a 3-year returning starter, captaining a team that has a disciplined work ethic already.
From the top to the bottom, we have great seniors. Freshmen came in willing to learn, which is awesome, and we've been just through practice and conditioning. We have no guys that are quitters, which is great.
The Heels have 2 games this week, both at home. Tuesday against High Point and Saturday against UMass. In Chapel Hill, I'm Chandler Carpenter reporting.
Both games will be played at Fetzer Field, with High Point starting at 4 p.m. and Massachusetts starting at noon. Lacrosse isn't the only spring sport getting started.
When we come back, baseball at the Bosch is about to begin. With this little stretch of warm weather here in Chapel Hill, it's starting to feel like baseball season again. Rivers Upchurch and Jarrett Corder preview the Diamond Heels.
With 6 College World Series appearances in the past 9 years, the baseball program is one of Carolina's strongest. Last year, however, the Heels failed to make it out of the regionals for only the second time since 2005. With a preseason ranking of number 17 in the country, the Diamond Heels are expecting to bounce back in 2015.
Right now, we're coming off, like you said, a down season. Our goal is to get back to what Carolina baseball represents, and that's late season into late June.
Preseason ACC Player of the Year candidate Sky Bolt has emerged as a team leader this offseason. Bolt hopes to offer his veteran leadership and experience to the highly touted freshman class.
You know, we're a winning program. It's program first, and the moment you can start playing the game for the little boy in you and the guys around you that may not have the opportunity to play pro ball with you, beyond North Carolina, then that's when they'll really be successful.
With the nation leading 6 teams in the preseason top 25, the ACC is college baseball's toughest conference. But junior starting pitcher Trent Thornton sees playing in the ACC as an opportunity for greatness.
I mean, every series is going to be a good series. There's tons of good players in the ACC, and that kind of prepares you for regional, super regionals, and get to Omaha because you're going to be playing a good team every day.
The Tar Heels' road to Omaha begins Friday afternoon at home against Seton Hall. In Chapel Hill, I'm Rivers Upchurch reporting.
The Heels will look to come out of the gate strong this year as their season begins with a 15-game homestand at the Bosch.
The UNC men's and women's swimming teams clocked multiple seasons' best times this weekend at the Carolina College Invitational at Corey Natatorium. Freshman Dalton Shaw dominated the water in the 400-yard IM, clocking the top time on the team as well as this year and breaking his career best Saturday night. Sophomore Patrick Reese also swam a personal best in the 100-yard backstroke with a time of 49.85. The Heels wrapped up the Invitational with 39 season best times in all as they prepare for next week's ACC championships.
On Saturday, the UNC gymnastics team took to Carmichael Arena to take on William & Mary as they looked for their first home win of the season. Their performance did not disappoint. Junior Lexi Capali was sensational on the bars, earning the highest score of the meet at 9.85. She seems pretty excited about sticking that landing. Caitlin Hedeland scored a team high on the vault, also with a 9.85. Haley Watts wasn't far behind, scoring a 9.8. But the meet belonged to Morgan Lane. The freshman starred in the all-around competition with the first place finish on the podium, scoring 39 out of a possible 40 points.
The Carolina wrestling team took to the mats against Virginia on Saturday. The wrestling team was pumped up to take on the Wahoos, and a star was born at Carmichael as freshman Ethan Ramos scored this takedown in overtime to defeat two-time All-American Nick Soltzer. Assistant coach Coleman Scott in the heels could sense the upset coming as junior Frank Abendaza hit the mat. Abendaza scored a decision against his opponent at 285 and clinched a 17-16 win for Carolina. The team will be back in action on Wednesday at Duke.
5Ks are a popular way to raise money and awareness on UNC's campus. One club paired up with an organization that has Tar Heel roots to host a very special 5K. Kayla Gibson has the story.
You see them in the tar pit of Keenan, in the risers of the Dean Dome, on the sidelines of Fetzer. At any and every game at UNC, Carolina Fever is there supporting student athletes. Recently, Fever supported something different for their first ever 5K. Co-chair Camden Freeman says the idea for the 5K was about moving from the stands to the community.
It started as just a way we want to have some sort of project to give back.
That's when Carolina Fever decided to hold the Fight Cancer 5K with local Childhood Cancer Foundation versus Cancer, started by former Carolina baseball player Chase Jones. Co-chair Russell Van Zomeren says Fever was drawn to the organization because of its mission and its connection to UNC.
For us, it was an opportunity to get involved with somebody who was clearly passionate about what he was talking about because he had lived the experience himself.
That experience? Jones himself had cancer his freshman year at UNC. He says his experiences in the Children's Hospital are what led to his mission to make a difference. During his time at Carolina, Jones and the baseball team worked to raise money to support children with cancer.
UNC baseball team and I kind of rallied around the idea that we can help out these kids. We have to help out these kids.
And the successes of raising money with Carolina baseball turned into Jones starting his own foundation after graduating in 2011.
I started Versus Cancer after really seeing how easy this was at North Carolina and how receptive the community was to really anybody putting themselves out there to help out a child with cancer.
Since then, Versus Cancer has been holding events with organizations across the country. The mission is simple: 50% of the proceeds to research and the other 50% to local children's hospitals. And for Van Zomeren, he's excited for Carolina Fever and the UNC community to be part of such a great cause.
It's like Tar Heels helping Tar Heels, which is one of my favorite things to be involved with.
And helping those Tar Heels is the reason that Van Zomeren says he wants the Fight Cancer 5K to be a new Carolina Fever tradition. In Chapel Hill, I'm Kayla Gibson, reporting.
Freeman says the Fight Cancer 5K was very successful, with almost 150 runners raising more than $2,000. One of the greatest things about Dean Smith, everyone seems to have a story about him.
We'll share some of ours when we come back. We want to end our program the way we started it, by honoring the memory of Dean Smith.
It's rare that someone has such a profound influence on so many people, but Dean Smith was that kind of person. All that he meant to UNC, not just for all the basketball wins, but as so many people pointed out, for the way he treated others. He and another Tar Heel we just lost, Stuart Scott, were the embodiment of the Carolina way.
And a quote that really sticks with me from Dean Smith: "You should never be proud of doing what's right. You should just do what's right." I think that's another representation of the Carolina way, and it's something that Smith will leave on campus forever.
I mean, it's something pretty special if you have a building as important as the Dean Dome named after you, and that clearly shows that he was much more than just a coach, but someone that touched all of the Carolina community right down to our very hearts and souls.
And he kept coming back to his office years after he had retired, so clearly Carolina meant a lot to him as well.
Yes, indeed. That does it for this edition of Sports Extra. Thanks for joining us. Good night.